experience. And the way that I did this was through two methods. First I focused on like how people perceive me and my appearance. So I believe you can say a lot with how people perceive you to appear. So for example, imagine you were to meet the President of the United States. How would you appear and how would you dress for that? And if you were to stay home all day with your cat, how would you dress for that? Very differently, right? So I wanted to show people that I respected them through my appearance. And also I use body language, of course, because how you move your body is like a type of language, and that shows non-verbally what you feel about the other person. So for body language, I stood up straighter, I took my head out of my phone, and I looked up. I took my earphones off so I could hear people around me. I smiled and waved at people and let them through the door first and stuff like that. And I have to say that overall it was a really good experience. So I did have mostly good experiences. I did have a couple bad moments throughout this experiment as well, and a couple ugly moments with a very few people in between. So let me start off with the good first. When I entered the school cafeteria the first day of the experiment, I went to B play and I was communicating nonverbal respect through body language and appearance. And people responded really, really well. They were smiling at me, and overall it was my most social lunch experience at UCLA because so many people I knew from classes and acquaintances were coming up to me way more than during other lunch periods and stuff. And overall I could just tell that all the respect that I was giving off was coming back to me tenfold in return. But I have to say that it wasn't all perfect. There were some bad moments too, but not really with the people that were interacting with me, but really with myself. Sometimes I realized that I was forgetting to, show respect to others. I was going back to my phone and I was doing all the things that I shouldn't be doing just because it's a big habit to look down at my phone. And I'm really busy with classes. I have a crazy schedule. I'm running a campaign right now and everything. So I was just busy and in my head, and I could tell the differences between people when I stopped showing nonverbal respect to them. And I have to say that there were a few ugly experiences in the same cafeteria setting. Some people were sort of offstandish to me and sort of aloof. And the only way that I can explain this is that I think they perceived me as maybe some sort of threat. They perceived my communication of respect as some sort of me looking down upon them or something like that. But again, I want to reiterate that overall my experiences were really positive, and I do say that I learned a lot about the value of nonverbal communication and how it's more powerful than verbal communication in many instances. And I do think that the golden rule is true, what they say, that respect others as you would like to be respected, and they'll treat you the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Stand there for your feedback. That was 404. Let's start on this side today. What did you like?
Me?
No, first row.
Hi, I'm Stacy.
Hi, Stacy.
I liked how you introduced it and said how you respected people and what your intentions were throughout the week, instead of just jumping into it.
Right. She had an introduction and it eased us into the whole thing for us. That was good, yes. And since you're a little new and didn't know the exercise, let's go here. And how can she improve?
I think...
Say your name, please.
Okay. I'm Evan.
Hi, Evan.
Hello. I think maybe if you looked up a little bit more and just looked at us more effectively, I think that would have been good. But you did a great job. So.
Okay. You want to be called Michelle, not Nancy, right? Okay, I'll remember that. Were you aware about the issue of where you were looking and the eye contact issue? Okay. Well, do you remember the exercise we did in class? So you can try practicing that. The other thing is if you practice with a friend and they hold their hands out like this, you practice going here for 5 seconds, here for 5 seconds, then here for 5 seconds. Practice moving your gaze without blinking. It's another effective way to practice quality eye contact. Well, I liked your speech. You gave us a good introduction. I might think a little bit long. It was 1:48, but you really set the context for what happened and how it worked and how you manifested the experiment, right? Yeah. What was unclear to me, and I was going to ask you, were you, in doing all these things that you said you do and standing up and not being, were you repeating the mantra, I respect you, as you were engaging in communication with people? Was that part of your drill and your exercise?
It was, but like I mentioned in the speech, sometimes I would
forget to do it, yeah. Okay, yeah. It's hard when you have your phone in your hand and it keeps beeping with texts and things going off to not want to look down and see who's calling you and things like that. We had a preview, good, bad, and the ugly. As you've heard me say to others, Michelle, I like a little more vocal oomph with it so it stands out and we know that's our roadmap, and that's what you're going to be doing, and that's where it's going. And then when you say, so the good, I went to Bruin played, and it was the best. People knew me. People smiled at me. It was great. I got the best reaction, okay? So that was a good one. For the bad, yes, you just said that you kind of ignored a little bit, and you kind of forgot sometimes. And you mentioned here sometimes you forgot to say thank you so much, but you didn't say that in your speech. And then the ugly, you felt that some people were just misinterpreting your respect, and you felt that they were in kind of a foul mood to start with, and maybe that was the explanation for it, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your summary and your conclusion and your tie back were all good, so you had a nice what I learned at the end. So overall you did a good job. I'd just like to see the narrative come out a little bit more with your voice, and a little shorter introduction, and a little better 5-second of eye contact. But overall, an excellent job. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, do we have another volunteer? Great, thank you. Do you have your outline? Thank you. Okay, Stacy stands before us. Can you take a half step forward, please? You're a little close to the wall. Oh, you're tall. Okay, good. I will adjust the camera. Stacy stands before you, managing attention. Make sure everyone's looking up and not sleeping. And phones are away, computers are closed. All eyes are on you. She says to herself, I respect my audience, and really means it. Finds friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi, I'm Stacy.
Hi, Stacy.
And as you know, this past week I practiced communicating respect to people non-verbally by briefly looking them in the eye and telling them silently, I respect you. And so today I'm going to tell you a bit how this experiment went, including the good, the bad, and the ugly experiences I had. To start off with, I'm going to talk about the good experience I had. I was working at the hospital, greeting visitors and patients, and helping them find their destinations. It was the end of my shift. It had been a long day. I was kind of fed up with people. I didn't really want to deal with them, but I was still trying really hard to communicate respect to everyone that walked through the door. When this older gentleman and lady walked in, and despite wanting to ignore them, I looked them in the eye and smiled and repeated silently, "I respect you." And they came over to me and asked them to escort them to the orthopedics department. And so when we were walking over, we made small talk. The gentleman asked me how I liked UCLA, what I was studying, things like that. When the lady he was with casually mentioned that he was Charles Young, the former chancellor of UCLA. I was a little bit shocked at first, but I recovered quickly, and we had a really nice conversation on the way to the department. And when I was walking back after having escorted them there, I realized that if I hadn't taken the time to show them respect and had just ignored them like I wanted to, that I wouldn't have had this really cool opportunity to meet Dr. Young. Unfortunately, not all of my experiences went that smoothly. Later in the week, I was at the farmer's market, and when I was standing in line waiting to pay for my fruit, I thought this is a great opportunity to communicate respect to the cashier. So I got up to the front of the line, I looked him in the eye, repeated the silent mantra, "I respect you," and I said, "Hi, how are you doing today?" The cashier looked really startled and taken aback. He kind of gave me a weird look and just said really quickly "fine," and started ringing me up. And at first I was a little bit upset that he had taken my respect towards him this way. But I took it in stride and figured, he's probably had a stressful day working in retail. Is not the best job always. Towards the end of the week, I did have an ugly experience. I was walking down the street, and I was practicing communicating respect to everyone I passed, when this gentleman took it as an open invitation to just cross the line and invade my personal space, and actually, as I was walking by, he just caressed my back. Now, obviously, I stepped back abruptly and told him to get his hands off me, and I turned and walked away immediately. Luckily, most of my experiences weren't like this. They were more positive ones like the first one. But what I really learned from this experiment was that when you communicate respect to people, it can open a lot of doors for you and make the other person feel welcome and at ease. But sometimes this transaction gets a little bit fumbled or botched, and when this happens, I think it's important to either put yourself in the other person's situation and realize maybe they're not having a great day, or if it really gets botched, then maybe you should communicate to the other person politely and respectfully, how you want to be treated respectfully so that both people can be on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you. That was 337. What did you like?
Hi, my name's Magali, and I really liked your
Magali.
speech in general. I liked your stories, how you said that if you wouldn't have smiled to the woman and Dr. Young, you wouldn't have even known that was him. But then when you smiled at the guy, and then he completely took it a different way and just touched your back, it just shows that while you are showing respect to others, maybe they'll take it differently because they're not used to it. But it was a really good speech. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll comment on that. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Hannah,
Hi, Hannah.
and I really liked your speech. I thought you did a really good job. The only thing I think was maybe your hand gestures were a little distracting, but I think everyone does that. I'm doing it right now. So, other than that, really good.
Okay. And you'll get a chance to watch yourself tonight on YouTube and see what you're doing. If you can put your hair behind your ears and not, keep it back there and not caress it or whatever, and we could see more of your face, that would be more effective in terms of your communication. Really liked your speech. You're very fluent, very likable. You had a very short and sweet intro. You just said, "Hey, I practiced this, I got mixed results, and I'm going to tell you about the good, the bad, the ugly." So you got right to it, which I appreciated. On your good story, it was actually a great story because, oh, there's a lot of stories that come out like this where people think they don't realize that they're befriending somebody that later turns out to be someone very important to them, and you never know. And but it's important to do that for everyone, even when you're tired, as you pointed out. That was your condition. By the way, how is Dr. Young's health? I haven't seen him or heard about him in years. Is he ambulating around okay and looking good, or?
Yeah, he looked good.
He looks
walks
fine?
A bit slowly, but...
Walks a little slow, okay. And his wife's walking okay and everything? Yeah, okay, good. On the, so I liked your good story. It was a good story. The bad story of the cashier, you took it well in stride, and that's when he said, you repeat the mantra again, and you just let it brush off you like water on a duck's back. On the ugly story, some men are dogs, as you've heard me say before, I think, and it's very sad. And I've had this happen in the last 40 years when I've been doing this exercise. I get reports of women just looking and saying, I respect you, and men going, she wants me, she wants to marry me, she wants me sexually, and all this crazy stuff. I can touch her. I don't know where this comes from, but I'm glad you handled it the way you did, which was firmly. And but this is one of the dangers or problems with this, is that meaning is in the receiver, and the heart is a lonely hunter. And some people are so starved for a smile that they so rarely get them that, sometimes they interpret them wrongly. So that was good. I would like to see you in your next speech try to move 3 times, if you could, on each of your stories. Take a couple steps to the left, a couple steps, 3-4 steps to the right, and then come back to the center for your 3rd story. You told us what you learned, and you had a summary and a conclusion and a tie-back. So you did a really excellent job. Thank you. Okay, here comes another volunteer. Excellent. Hi. Thank you. Andrew, if you could step that way just a step, and a step forward, just a half step. Yeah, okay, let me get you in the camera range. You're a little bit off. There you go. Andrew stands before us, managing attention, communicating respect, saying to himself, I respect my audience, and he really means it. Finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Andrew.
Hi, Andrew.
And I'm going to be talking to you about our social experience with respect and repeating the mantra, I respect you, to everyone that I came in contact with this past week. And so what I'll be talking about is my experience during while I was at work, and the good experience with that, and then a couple of bad experiences and what I saw with that. And then the only ugly experience I probably had with, and I'll talk about that later, was the heartbreaking loss that we had from Stanford last Saturday. And so, with my work, I work in downtown Los Angeles in Little Tokyo as an optometric assistant at Los Angeles Eye Care Optometry Group. And so, during this week, I made an effort to be saying that mantra, I respect you, to every patient that I worked with. And the good part about this experience was, what happened was my work turned more pleasant. The pre-testing that I was doing, the questions I was asking, turned from are using any new medications turn into, oh, how's your family? How's your day? How was your weekend this past weekend? Did you do anything fun? And it turned my work experience much more pleasant. And that was for the majority of the time. But there were a couple patients which turned into the bad, which all they wanted to do was just get their eyes checked, get their contact lens prescription, get their glasses prescription, and that was it. They didn't really want to talk to anyone else. But I still made that effort to say, I respect you. And what I took away from that, what I took away from those two experiences, the difference, was that it's much easier to reciprocate respect than to initiate it. And the more you initiate it, the more easier it becomes to do it. However, it's not always going to be mutual between the two people. And so that was what I got away from while working with our patients and repeating the mantra, I respect you, to each patient. And so the ugly story, which I refer to as the heartbreaking loss to Stanford, was at the end of the game, and I saw the Stanford running back, Christian McCaffrey, who was the Heisman frontrunner, and I was thinking about during the game, he was very active, and even though I wanted him to lose, I wanted their team to lose, I didn't really care for him that much. As I saw him on the field, I put my feet towards him, and I repeated the mantra, I respect you, to him. And he probably won't even know who the heck I am at any point in his life. But even though I didn't care for his team, I didn't like his team, I wanted them to lose, it's still possible to respect those people who are maybe your enemies. They don't always have to be your friends. You don't have to be your friends to respect them, but it's still possible because you acknowledge them as a person, as a human being, and also you acknowledge their value and their work effort which I saw in when he was playing this past weekend. And so that's what I took away from this experiment. And that was, even though that was the only ugly part, I still took away from that. And so to conclude that, what I learned was it's much easier, like I said, it's much easier to reciprocate the respect, which I received when I started repeating that mantra while working with our patients and started to learn more about their lives, and which made also my work much more pleasant. And also I learned it's not always going to be mutual from the people who didn't reciprocate that respect. And then also you may not always care for the person, but you can still respect them. And that's what I learned.
Thank you. 334.
Hi, my name's Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
And I really liked your speech. It was really nice to hear that you got over that you didn't particularly like someone, but you still respected them. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is maybe just slow down a little, but besides that, it was awesome.
Yeah, slow down a little. You had plenty of time, so. Improve?
Hi, I'm Jarabi. I really liked your speech, but I feel like you got very comfortable instead of like moving around so much.
Yes.
But I like the way you connected with
Right. I almost, when you watch yourself tonight on YouTube, you'll see I had a little trouble following you, so I would recommend you walk purposefully. So you say the good, walk a couple steps, try it right now. Walk a couple steps to the right, plant your feet in the power stance, stay there. Work this side of the room. The good was the optometrist. Now the bad will come over here to work this side of the room. Plant your feet in the power stance. Now the bad was now come back to center, and you're back in the center for the ugly. And you know, even though he beat us, I still respected him. Try that kind of walking more purposefully. It seems that you were pacing and it was distracting. I like your speech. You're a likable speaker, and that's a good thing. Andrew, you gave us a preview that we knew it was going to be the good, the bad, the ugly, and that was fine. Just a little more, saying this to everyone, make the narrative come up a little bit more with your voice, so we can follow it. And when you're in the first thing. So you say, so let's go to the good, you know, and give us a real feeling of where we are in your presentation. I like the good stuff that you talked about at the office and the good things that came out of that, so I like that. The bad was understandable, and we expect that we won't always be acknowledged, but that's just we keep practicing and saying the mantra. The ugly, yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. I'm not I shouldn't say this, but I don't really follow sports so much. But I was invited to a 49ers game. My close friend has tickets on the 50-yard line down front, and so I couldn't resist going with such good seats. They were playing the Denver Broncos. And the Denver Broncos recovered a fumble against the 49ers and ran it back almost to the end zone. And I clapped wildly. It was a tremendous run, zigzagged all over the field, and the people around me were looking at me because I was in the 49ers section of the bleachers, and my friend said, "How can you be clapping for the Denver Broncos?" And I said, "I applaud excellence. That was an excellent run. I respect that." He just shook his head. He goes, "That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life." But I think that was the kind of thing you were doing by saying, I can respect this person even though I'm sorry that he's beating us. He's still a good player and worthy of some respect, right? Yeah. As far as what you learned, I think that you summarized and got to that nicely. If you can work in a little tie back to where you started, you know, with some cute intro that you come back to, that's even better. But you did a nice job, Andrew, and you got it done. Just work on your walking and slow down, and you'll be in great shape. Thank you, Andrew. Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Great, great, great. Is it Linnea?
Yes.
Linnea stands before you managing attention in the power stance, standing in the power stance very nicely, making sure everyone is looking up, communicating respect non-verbally, saying to herself and really meaning that I respect my audience, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center, say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Hello, class. I'm Linnea.
Hi, Linnea.
And I respect you. I respect you. This has been our mantra since the closing of our first class. And while it was uncomfortable at first, I'm going to explain how it really shaped my first week back at UCLA in good, bad, and ugly ways. So first I'll begin with the good. Last year in my hall, I would kind of duck and cover, shyly scurry around people trying to get back to my bedroom, and really just avoid eye contact. I was shy, I was a freshman. And this year I really decided to take our mantra to heart, and I was going to look people in the eye and try to get to know them and form more of a community in my hallway. So I started doing that, looking them in the eye, and I noticed how showing nonverbal respect really communicated a good message, and I started making friends with my neighbors, and I'm just really grateful that this experiment started to work in my hallway. So that was the good experience. And now I'll move on to the bad. The bad happened on Bruin Walk, and like many of you have talked about before, Bruin Walk is crazy and intimidating, and I like to put my headphones and my sunglasses on and just move on. Like, when people come up to me with flyers, I would like to kind of just thankfully say no thank you and keep going. But on Monday, I decided to take our mantra to heart and non-verbally communicate respect. And I would look people in the eye when they offered me a flyer and say thank you and ask them how their day was going and get to know what their causes were. And I really gained respect for them. And you're probably wondering, how is this a bad experience? You know, you're getting mutual respect. This is really great. And I just really started to feel like my respect was being spread thin. And it was 100 degrees out, and I was dying. And I just felt like my respect was not very sincere. And it felt kind of fake and forced, and I don't feel like that's the right way to go about it. So that was my bad experience, and now I'll get to my ugly experience. So like our last speaker, my ugly experience happened at the Rose Bowl. It was halftime, and I decided to get ice cream. I was really hungry, and it was really hot too. So I decided to get ice cream, and I go with my friends, and I'm standing in line, and I decide to practice the mantra. Anyone who passes by, bumping or anything, people were swarming around. It was really tight. I decided to look them in the eye and graciously let them through to the next line. And then this man, 30-year-old scruffy guy, clearly pre-gamed way too hard. He walks up, and I look him in the eye, and I let him go through graciously, and he decides that it's time to take a pass at me, and he stops, and he talks to us. And he wouldn't leave us alone. We're like, let's just get our ice cream. I just want my Dippin' Dots. Let me go, please. And he stayed for about 5 minutes, and we finally had to say, like, goodbye. We need to go back to our seats. The game's about to start. And it was just an uncomfortable and ugly experience. And I think what I learned from that specific ugly experience was that sometimes your respect can be reciprocated in an unhealthy and uncomfortable way. What I learned was that I used to internalize my respect for others as a way of kind of preserving my own position in my social atmosphere. So I didn't want to be belittled by my peers. I wanted them to look at me on the same level, and I didn't want to feel small. So this week, I really learned that showing respect for others doesn't make you small. It actually makes you tall. Like, people will look you in the eye back, and they'll get to know you, and it's really worth it. So, in conclusion, the good is totally worth the bad and the ugly. The relationships I formed on my hall were worth sweating on Bruin Walk and having to tell a guy to leave me alone. You know, it's worth it to be respectful to others. And I just started to learn that showing respect for others made my words have more value, and I'm just really grateful that I went through this experiment.
Thank you. 403. Use the hat, please.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
Thought you did a really good job. Especially liked your natural tone. It just seemed really organic and really likable. And just the whole speech was really good.
Thank you.
Good point, Ryan. Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Andre.
Hi, Andre.
It was a spectacular speech. I really liked it. I liked everything about it, except just a few times here and there, maybe you looked up or you looked down, except if you just improved that, was amazing.
Thanks.
Okay. Were you aware of your eye contacts or doing that or not really?
I would catch myself, and I would try to look down at the faces you pointed out at the beginning, but
okay.
Sometimes scared away.
Linnea, let's talk about your speech. I loved your intro, your reference to our Milli Vanilli and going from speaking it to whispering it to saying it to ourselves. That was excellent. It was an illusion that everyone had a common experience and shared, and so that was excellent. Mm-hmm. You got right to the point, which I appreciate, and you had a good vocal, good, bad, ugly, so we knew it was coming, and that was good. On the good, you told us that you used to be shy and avoided eye contact, and now you've started to repeat the mantra and make eye contact and not be so shy. You've made friends on your floor, and that's been very positive. And that will continue not just on your floor, but everywhere. People will sense, you're radiating respectful vibrations. So that's good. On the bad, yeah, you can spread yourself too thin in doing this. If you're spending 30 minutes on Bruin Walk, you know, it can get a little old. On the ugly, wow. Another one of these incidents where a certain smile a certain way can lead an unsuspecting heart on a merry chase. And, you know, unfortunately this wasn't a very merry chase. This was an unmarried chase, but your motives were pure when you gave him respect, but he misinterpreted it. He thought you were flirting, but as long as your motives are pure, some students have reported they have little white lies ways of telling what people go, oh, I'm real flattered, I have a boyfriend, thanks anyway, you know, take care, goodbye, you know, just so people save face. Instead of you wish or please leave me alone or get out of here, it makes it a little more, you know, tense, you know. On what you learned, you summarized that nicely, and your conclusion had a good tie back to your beginning. So you did a really good job, and just watch the eye contact and try to use that, what you saw the exercise we did in class before of trying to have 5 seconds without blinking and looking around. And I would like to see you walk next time 3 times, and that'll help relax your body and not make you quite so tense when you're standing there. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hi, how you doing? Okay, I'm glad I brought my stapler. Okay, let me adjust the trusty camera. Front camera. Move the right camera. Good. Okay. Okay, Girelli, is it? Girelli stands before you managing attention, communicating respect non-verbally, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Hi everyone, I'm Girelli Morales. I'm a sophomore here on campus.
Hi Girelli.
Hi. So I will be talking about respect. You may think, well, what is respect? Respect is when you admire something or someone deeply. So on Tuesday, I found out about this assignment, and I was like, wow, well, I show respect all the time, but I don't really do it non-verbally because I'm a talkative person, so I find it easier to do it that way. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do? So I found out that ways of showing respect non-verbally are by smiling at someone or letting them go before you or just simply listening attentively. So I will begin with the good and then move on to the bad, the ugly, and conclude. So with the good, I walked out of this room on Tuesday and I was like, well, how can I do this? Like, what can I do to show that I'm respecting someone without actually saying it? So I walked out the building and I thought about it for a while, but then I remembered about how hungry I was because I didn't have breakfast that morning. And I was like, well, you know, usually when you don't have breakfast, you're like grumpy or like in a bad mood. So I just like ignored that and I was like, you know what, like I'm going into the dining hall and I should probably start on my experiment. So what I did is that there was people behind me and I was like, okay, well, I'll let them go in front of me without saying anything and I'll just smile and like greet them. So I stood back, I watched them as they went in, and I smiled. And one of the girls even said like, "Oh, you're so nice," and I thought that made my day. And I don't really like do things like that, so doing that made me like happy, and I noticed I had a better attitude. And then for the bad, it didn't go as great. So what happened was that same day I went to Target, and I had to do like my leftover shopping for my dorm because I live here on Sprout Hall. And I was like, okay, well, what should I do here? Because I was using like different locations. And while I was waiting in the aisle, I saw an elderly lady, and she was like carrying all her bags. So I was like, oh, I should probably like respect that she's older than me and show her like that I'm kind and helpful. So I went up to her and I tried to help her out with her bags. I just smiled and like handed my arms to her. But she like looked at me and she kind of got insulted because she wasn't that old. She was probably like around like 50 maybe. So she was capable of doing it herself, but I just wanted to show her like respect. So I didn't go so great because she got insulted, obviously. And then for the ugly, I went to the gym yesterday, to the one on the hill, and I was like, okay, here's another experience. And I was waiting for the treadmill, and one of the girls on it, the one in front of me, she was like running and like putting so much effort into her running and sweating, and I was like, wow, like I want to be like that when I get on this treadmill too. So I watched her, and it probably seemed like I was stalking, but I was just admiring her work. And I smiled at her too, but she kind of like got, I don't know, I feel like she probably thought I was judging her or something, but I was actually admiring her work. And yeah, so I felt bad by doing that, but I wasn't really doing anything bad. And with this experience, I learned that it's good to show that you respect someone non-verbally, but you have to like find different ways of doing it because not everyone will take it the same way. And I also think it's more powerful to show respect non-verbally than to actually say it because after all, actions speak louder than words.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, we're somewhere back here.
Hi, I'm Laura.
Hi, Laura.
And I thought you did a really good job. I really like how organized your speech was. You had like a clear intro, clear ending, and your three stories were very distinct, and I like how you divided them up by location. The one thing that you could maybe work on is sometimes your voice would get a little bit quiet, but I think you noticed and you brought it back up. But other than that, your speech was really good.
Okay, those are good comments, Laura. Improvement, yeah.
Hi, I'm Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
So in terms of improvement, what she said, your volume was a little bit low at some parts. And also, I think you actually got really comfortable, and so you're saying stuff like and that, so try to not say those words, but that's good.
Really like your speech. You're a very likable speaker. You got right to the point. You started with a definition, so we were kind of all in the same semantic space, right? When you admire someone or something deeply, so you were defining it in terms of admiration, which was fine. So that was a good working definition. Yes. You then operationalized it by talking about a smile, listening attentively, looking at people, and so forth. So on the good, you had a good preview, and then on the good, well, you ended up having a positive experience at the dining hall, and so that was positive, and that was good. On the bad, I think you were, your intentions were good, and so you can't fault yourself. You can just say, sorry, I was just trying to be helpful, and you can't walk away and say, I'm never going to do that again, because there are some elderly people that do need help, and it's a nice thing to do, and it's a nice thing to give up your seat on the bus and other places when they come on the bus or so forth, you know. On the ugly, yes, I think that we've had this in other variations of people looking too long at a person and they get uncomfortable and they think they're being judged or stalked, or they feel it's a little spooky and they don't get the sense that they're being respected and revered, but as you put it, maybe judged. So you got to watch out for that, how long you look. Like I said, this exercise in respect is just I respect you and look away, and that's enough because you're trying to radiate respectful vibrations, you know, telepathically, you know, just through the vibrations that you give off. What I learned was good. Your conclusion was excellent. And when you watch yourself tonight, notice the fillers that you are using, the likes and the ums. And when you practice with a live person, not a mirror, ask them to hold up their hand every time you use those transitional fillers, and you'll find that that will help you lose those as transitional fillers, and they'll go away. Okay, nice job. Really. Hi.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. And you?
Great, thanks.
Good.
Oh, you're tall.
Yes.
How tall are you?
5'11".
Great. Good job. Okay, you broke my camera. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Michelle, is it?
Michaela.
Michaela. Michaela. Michaela stands before you, managing attention, communicating respect non-verbally, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Hi everyone, my name is Michaela.
Hi, Michaela.
Right, and I'd like to share with you my experiences from this past week in communicating nonverbal respect. So coming into this social experiment per se, I thought it was going to be really easy, a piece of cake. I come from a family with a long lineage of military history, and both my parents are from the South and the Midwest respectively. So it's pretty much a common necessity that respect is just expected in my family. So I thought that nonverbal respect in daily life to people I didn't know and friends alike would be a piece of cake. However, what I didn't know is that I was going to actually take a lot of focus to repeat this silent mantra of I respect you, really focusing on respecting people in a nonverbal sense and taking the time and effort to really communicate that I did respect them, instead of just showing some way of saying I respect you but not really meaning it. So I want to take you through the 3 most memorable experiences I had through this social experiment. Per se, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So this first good experience occurred on Bruin Walk. It was the first day after class on Tuesday afternoon. It was really, really hot, and I was off to my next class. So I was walking along, and this really nice looking girl handed me a flyer. And it was for a club I totally wasn't interested in, and I had no interest in it at all. But I wanted to say to her that I respect you, but without actually saying it. So I took the flyer from her, I smiled, and said thank you. For whatever reason, this girl was really excited that I took her flyer, because I don't think a lot of people were really interested in her club. So she started a quick, short little conversation with me about it, and she told me that me taking her flyer really made her day. I was really excited that this was just a small thing that I did for her, and I really meant to her non-verbally that I respect you. I want you to be respected. And she really appreciated it. The next experience, ironically, occurred on Bruin Walk as well. It happened the next day. We weren't in this lecture on that Wednesday afternoon, and I was walking up Bruin Walk to my other classes trying to communicate non-verbally to people around me that I respected them. Not necessarily to people handing out flyers or trying to recruit me for different clubs, but to my peers who were walking past me trying to go to class. People were confused and not really understanding that I wanted to respect them. They kind of just brushed me off if I smiled or waved hi to people I maybe knew or maybe didn't know, and they were really just confused. Some of them almost seemed angry or offended, like, why is she smiling? What is she trying to say? What's going on? I don't get it. So that was one experience that I was actually quite shocked by. People didn't really understand that I just wanted to respect them. Then the ugly experience happened last Friday afternoon. I was walking in downtown Westwood with my friend from the baseball team. We were just trying to get some dinner before we were going out to have some good time with some friends. And so we're walking to the famous Fat Sal's restaurant. We're walking down the street, and we see this elderly man who definitely looked like he had few too many drinks that evening early on, and he was definitely looked like he was not going through a great patch in his life. So I gave him a smile and a wave as we were walking by. He became very, very angry. He was obviously intoxicated and probably not fully in his full state of mind that he's usually in, and he started yelling at myself, my friend, and all the people around us. He was very, very upset that we were just trying to respect him. So this experiment was actually something really interesting to me, and I thought that I wasn't going to actually get a lot out of it, but I learned that you can respect people and not really focus on them. But what I learned is that it really does take just a little bit more effort and focus to really communicate to people the mantra that I respect you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, where are we? Here, this way.
Hi, I'm Linnea.
Hi, Linnea.
Great job. I think you're really expressive. Your facial expressions and your voice changed a lot, and it kept us really engaged. So, nice job.
Good. Improvement. Looking around, hoping there was someone behind you.
Hi, I'm Lily.
Hi, Lily.
I really liked your speech overall. I really liked the family parts you added. It helped us know you better. And like she said, you're very expressive. Only improvement I can think of is maybe less candid things, but I think
when you watch yourself tonight on YouTube, you started out giving us the narrative of the good, the bad, the ugly, but you didn't keep it up throughout your speech, so we lost a little of the thread of it. So do something more like, so let me first tell you the good. Now that I've told you the good, let's go on to the bad. It wasn't just good and bad, there was ugly, see? So give us a running place of where you are. Well, you told us you had some southern and midwestern ancestry, and so you thought this was going to be easier, which I appreciated. The Bruin Walk thing was a good story, and you made this lady's day. I might say I thought your smile, I disagreed a little bit. I think you have a contagious smile, and it's good. And it's good to smile and smile a lot. It's a good opening and a good friendly gesture to use. But as we go on and through this narrative, when we saw the bad, you I don't know if you were looking over and smiling like that at complete strangers. If so, then that wasn't really what we were trying to do. We were just trying to look over at strangers and say, I respect you. And you know, if a smile comes out of it naturally, but not a held smile and not a held look, because then people think something strange going on, and you're weird or something. Then it's not just subtle nonverbal, but stalking or something else. On the ugly, yeah. You know, there's only one word for it, you know, to explain the whole thing. We don't need to go into it. It's just alcohol, you know. has bad effects on people's minds, and especially long use of it. And I've seen this in Westwood. I've seen this with the homeless when someone just hands them $1. Ah, you can't hand me $1, you cheap bitch. You know, I scream out like that. It's frightening. And then the intention was respect and good and to be helpful, and you get this. And so there's alcohol, there's mental illness, and there's other things that lead to you hearing that kind of ugly talk. But that's when you need to repeat your mantra and use it and say it and help you keep your center with your mantra. You're learning, what you learned was fine and good. The only thing I'd say is just keep the narrative more focused and out into the speech, and keep your smile going. And you did a good job, Michaela. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Ryan stands before you, managing attention, communicating respect non-verbally, finding friendly eyes near the front and center. Say your name. Feel the you're tall. Start your speech.
Hi everyone, I'm Ryan.
Hi Ryan.
And I'm from New Jersey. Contrary to popular belief, we all aren't the Jersey Shore stereotype. We don't have the Jersey Shore accent, and we're not really obsessed with gym, tan, and laundry. But I would be lying if I told you that New Jersey natives tend to be very detached, aren't the most respectful, and if that nonverbal communication isn't an imperative amongst Jersey people. You might get the occasional road rage-induced middle finger, but apart from that, you're not going to get many warm smiles from strangers. So moving to LA was really a culture shock for me. A lot of people that I didn't know would be smiling at me as if I did know them, and I didn't really know how to react. I was often very shocked, detached, and just ignore them completely. I soon enough learned how to react a little better, and bearing all this in mind, I decided with this experiment to do two things. The first thing was to decide what I would do as far as the experiment, how I would convey the respect. I decided what I could do best was a warm smile and a slight nod. So I went about doing that, and then I also made a prediction since we were conducting an experiment. My prediction was that most people would be very kind, would reciprocate my actions. Some people would be just like me, not really know what to do, and ignore me. And I didn't really expect anything unexpected as far as reactions go. Looking back now, I experienced some really good moments, some bad moments, and some really odd moments, and I really should have expected the unexpected. Last week we had club soccer tryouts. I'm a member of the team, and this was one of the best moments because I chose to convey respect to a lot of the younger kids that I noticed were very nervous. You could see that they're in their play also were very sporadic and very scared of all the older players. A lot of the older players did introduce themselves to these kids, but you could still see that when they knew they were being watched, they were very skeptical and that they were very shaky on the ball. I took this as a moment to really initiate contact and do a warm smile and nod to a lot of these kids who I then noticed played really well, and a lot of them actually ended up making the team. And I could see that they respected me as a peer rather than feared me as an overarching individual. Now, to move on to some bad moments. There were often times where, like I predicted, people didn't reciprocate what I was doing, and I was fine with that. But the worst was when I was heading to a friend's room on campus, and I walked into the elevator, and it was just me and this one other guy. I thought this was a good moment to just smile, nod at him, make him feel appreciated and respected. He, however, saw this as me making an advance on him. I don't know, maybe I did something wrong as far as my smile and my nod, but he then looked really baffled, really shocked, and then told me that he wasn't interested whatsoever. I then was taken aback a little bit, told him I was just trying to be nice, and he then seemed a little embarrassed and told me to just leave him alone, which kind of sucked because we had to share the ride to the 9th floor. But all's good now. But I still expected like things like this. What really hit me was when I went to BCAF, and I was waiting online, and I saw the perfect opportunity to convey respect to this one kid who was exiting with a sandwich. Looked like a nice kid, so I decided to smile at him. And after I did this, his face like lit up, and I was completely taken aback. He walked right up to me and then just started a conversation with me as if he knew exactly who I was. He asked me about my summer. He pretended to know that I was from New Jersey, told me about his internship, asked me about mine, and I was surprised they knew I had one. Told me that his sister got married, and we went on to have like a 10-minute conversation. I didn't really want to break the line and like tell him, dude, I was just smiling at you, and I don't know who you are. So I just pretended to go along with everything. It was a really weird experience, for sure. So, to look back now, I learned a lot from all these experiences. First off, conveying non-verbally different messages such as respect can oftentimes be way more powerful than verbal messages. As I saw with my experience with the club soccer team, a lot of the kids that had been introduced verbally to other teammates of mine didn't really seem to have any effect from that, but when I then was really kind and showed my respect to them, they seemed to receive that. I also noticed from both experiences in the elevator and on the line at BCAF that nonverbal messages can often be misinterpreted, and it's really a skill that you have to harness, an important skill, but a skill that can be often misinterpreted. In closing, I think communication and nonverbal communication is something that we should all try and strive to use. I definitely felt an internal reward from just giving people respect, and I felt really happy, and it creates a really happy and respectful environment that we could all use. Psychologist Rollo May has this one quote that says, "Communication is community," and that is understanding, intimacy, and mutual valuing. And I think our society tends to stray away from, as like with the development of technology and stuff, we don't tend to respect each other on a day-to-day basis, and we could use a lot more mutual value.
Thank you. 456. Okay, we're somewhere here. Hi.
Hi, I'm Jordan.
Hi, Jordan.
I really liked what you had to say and how you said it. You made really good eye contact. And I'm also from New Jersey, so like a little bit more.
Hey, all right. Shout out to New Jersey. Improvement.
Hi, I'm Alyssa.
Hi, Alyssa.
I think your speech was really good, and I really connected with all your stories, and it was genuine. But towards the end, it got a little longer, and your conclusion could have been a little bit shorter.
Yeah. Right, you need to watch the time, but you are a very fluent speaker, and undo your hand, let them just be by your side naturally. You started off with sort of an arresting fact. I'm from New Jersey, I'm a New Yorker or something, and let us know that that wasn't exactly respectful city and so forth. So that was fine. And then you transitioned into LA was kind of a cultural shock because a few people would smile at you and so forth. So You gave us an interesting contrast as your introduction. What I needed was just a little better transition into the experiment. So then, this leads me to this experiment I was assigned in class and how I was going to deal with it, and here's what I did, and here's what happened. And since you talked about a hypothesis, I would have been interested for you to mention that.
Kind of
Forgot about the hypothesis and mention that at the end. The good, the bad, and the odd was your preview. So that was fine. Just make that a little more verbally apparent in your narrative. The soccer tryouts was your good, and you were able to communicate the nonverbal respect, and you saw it manifest itself in the people that you did it to. That was excellent. The bad was the elevator, and the fella thought you were a homosexual, and when you were hitting on him. And gosh, that's sort of sad. But it's just sad. These kinds of things are sad and misunderstood, but you handled it correctly. I was just being nice and just leave me alone, and but that's when you still repeat the mantra and you still do it. I must say one other thing though you should be aware of is that elevators are special places. I've been in elevators where people get off and one person, you're supposed to adjust the move away from people and stuff. I've had one people stand right next to me when people get off, and I'm kind of, what the hell's going on here? So there's all kinds of unspoken etiquette about, proxemics that go on in elevators that you have to be aware of in practicing this. Okay. On the BCAF, as you call it, that was a positive thing, and then on the final thing, what you learned and concluded, that was unexpected, that you got this fella to come up to you and pour his heart out to you. It's actually I thought that was really excellent.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be so New Jersey about it. I'd be a little more California about it. Just think it be kind and be nice and listen to the guy. Anyway, your conclusion was good, and just stray back and come back to the hypothesis. Loved your Rollo May quote and ending. It showed you really put some thought into this. I appreciate that. So thank you. You did a nice job, Ryan. Oh, here we go. Yeah. How are you? I'm great. How are you? Okay, let me adjust the camera. Just give me a moment. Yes. Ooh. Well, okay. Let's see, minute 8. The battery says it's almost out. Let me see. Okay. Let's do the drill with how was your weekend? Sorry.
Hi guys, how was your weekend? Well, in terms of weekend, it was yesterday. How was your day yesterday? Good, thank you.
Keep going.
What did you guys do? You guys have fun?